A crowded international airport, a sudden explosion, and a region already on the edge of war. Just picture that for a second. You're standing at the terminal, luggage in hand, maybe waiting to board a flight or looking for a loved one at arrivals, and in an absolute instant, everything changes. We're looking at some intense new footage emerging out of Kuwait, revealing the devastating aftermath of a deadly missile strike. And let me tell you, this hasn't just shattered glass and concrete, it has literally sent shockwaves through the entire Persian Gulf. Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to this explainer. Since you guys follow this stuff, you know things are moving fast. But today, we are taking a structured, step-by-step look at the verified facts behind what is quickly becoming a massive geopolitical flashpoint, the Kuwait airport strikes. We're going to cut through the breaking news chaos and map out exactly what happened, who's involved, and most importantly, what this means for global stability. Because this isn't just an isolated incident, right? It's a story about a region standing directly at a crossroads between conflict and peace. Strike on Kuwait airport, the inciting incident. So we're going to start right at the ground level. Look at the sheer velocity of how this crisis unfolded. It's staggering. Just weeks ago, a very fragile ceasefire began. The whole region kind of collectively held its breath, hoping for a period of calm. Then, literally days ago, we saw a huge sign of recovery. Kuwait International Airport actually reopened to the public after sustaining earlier damage linked to this ongoing simmering conflict. It was this great symbol of returning to normal. But then, the overnight hours, sudden missile strikes hit the airport. It's this rapid escalation that completely echoes the sudden airborne threats this region faced during the Gulf conflicts of the 90s, and it instantly put the ceasefire on life support. Literally, one moment a step toward peace, the very next, a violent setback. And, of course, with that sudden escalation comes an immediate human toll. According to reports, the missile strike on the airport resulted in at least one person killed and dozens more injured. Emergency crews had to rush to the scene in the pitch dark. You know, it's absolutely crucial to remember that these were just ordinary travelers, people simply trying to get from point A to point B, who suddenly found themselves caught right in the middle of a rapidly escalating military crisis. Escalation in the Gulf. The wider confrontation. Now, to truly understand the gravity of this airport strike, we've got to pull the camera back a bit. The primary geopolitical actors involved in this wider confrontation include Iran, the United States, and several Gulf nations. And it's really important to note here that we are looking at this totally impartially. We aren't taking sides of pointing fingers, we are simply looking at the board to see who the key players actually are. All of these actors have massive strategic, economic, and military interests woven right into the fabric of the Persian Gulf. So when a strike happens at a major international hub like Kuwait, it immediately pulls all of these actors into a tense, high-stakes standoff, challenging a ceasefire that was already incredibly fragile to begin with. And man, that standoff turned kinetic very quickly. Reports indicate that overnight, missiles and air defense interceptor systems literally lit up the night skies above both Kuwait and Bahrain. Just imagine looking up and seeing the dark sky completely crisscrossed by the bright streaks of interceptors hunting down incoming projectiles. This wasn't just a single isolated strike. This represents one of the most severe, intense military exchanges since the fragile ceasefire was first put into place. Oil, trade, and economy. The macro stakes. So you might be wondering, why does an exchange in the skies over Kuwait and Bahrain actually matter to someone living in Tokyo or London or New York? Well, it's because Kuwait sits at the absolute heart of the world's energy supply. Global trade routes face a high risk of severe disruption. A conflict here doesn't just stop local flights, it bottlenecks global shipping, period. Next, regional oil exports face a direct threat. And honestly, this feels a lot like the energy supply panics we saw during the tanker wars of the 1980s. Any disruption to oil facilities or tankers in the Gulf can send energy prices skyrocketing overnight, impacting everything from manufacturing all the way down to the price of gas at your local pump. And finally, Gulf economic stability is deeply at risk from a prolonged conflict. The stakes here literally couldn't be higher. It's a massive domino effect just waiting to happen. Civilians caught in conflict, resilience on the ground. But amidst all this macro-level geopolitical and economic anxiety, there is a really striking contrast happening on the ground. Because while governments maneuver and militaries posture, ordinary people are forced to adapt. On one hand, you have the undeniable danger, falling missiles, severe damage to civilian infrastructure like the airport terminal, and emergency crews rushing into crisis zones. That is the violent reality up in the skies. But parallel to that, the continuation of daily life. Even as the missiles fall, daily life defiantly pushes forward. Commercial flights, wherever possible, work to resume. Schools remain open. Businesses are unlocking their doors. The people of the Gulf are showing incredible resilience, basically refusing to let the specter of a wider war completely halt their daily existence. It's a really powerful testament to human endurance in the face of all this geopolitical turbulence. The race for diplomacy, behind closed doors. Now, while the interceptors are firing up in the sky, there is another totally unseen battle happening on the ground. Behind the scenes, the race is absolutely on. Diplomatic efforts are continuing fiercely as both sides, and indeed the entire international community, attempt to prevent a complete return to full-scale war. You've got diplomats working the phones, walking into secure government buildings, desperately trying to find off-ramps and de-escalation strategies. It is a crazy dual reality, a very public display of military force paired with super frantic private negotiations. The future of the entire Gulf, and by extension a massive chunk of the global economy, is currently hanging on the decisions being made in these very rooms over the coming days. So we end with this profoundly heavy question. Can diplomacy move faster than the next missile? The pieces are on the board, the stakes are universally high, and the human cost is already very real. The region is watching closely, and frankly, the world is too. The balance between conflict and peace has rarely been this precarious. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Definitely keep this question in mind as you watch the news unfold in the days ahead. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.